Hey, when are we telling people that you retired?
We did.
No, we didn't.
Yes, we did.
told the patrons. We didn't tell.
Oh, really? Well, we could do that
public.
now.
I just did.
Did I retire? Yeah, I retired from Lancaster City early July.
Congratulations.
Thanks,
Gary.
man. Thanks.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And we will not share what you're doing now. It's top secret.
I don't know if it's top secret, but let's just say this. Can we say that what I have to say is as relevant as it was back then
Yes.
as it is now?
Well, for sure. You
Yeah.
still have
All the experience.
You can say as much as you want to say. About
Well, thank you,
what you're
Anthony,
doing
for
now.
your permission to tell people about my life, which
You
I
do
don't
need
like
my
to do to
permission.
begin with.
I know you don't like to tell people anything, but it endears you to people when you share a little bit more about your life.
So-
and aren't so guarded.
I like to be guarded. It's how I feel like I stay safe. I'm having problems with stay. I can't say it right now. I don't know why. I don't know. Yeah, so I'm retired as of early July, and now I'm still in law enforcement. Let's just say that.
Yeah, we'll say that.
Totally different department, no longer with Lancaster City Bureau of Police. Had a great career, 22 and 7 months, I believe.
There you go.
Yeah. Although I left as if I had 25 years on. So that's pretty exciting.
Which is key.
Yeah, it's super cool, dude. It's been great. Like I feel rejuvenated, going after it again,
Nice.
just in a different way, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, 14 and a half years of doing nothing but sex crimes was probably a mistake.
Probably.
Looking back, I might have people in my lives who have told me to probably make a change
Yes.
many years ago, which I didn't listen to. But I loved my career. I had a great time. Putting lots of bad guys away for a really long time, helping kids out and women out.
Yeah, for sure.
Boys.
And obviously anyone with a brain could tell that we had worked together. I mean, we talked about working together on Diakonos, but we also tried to be careful because you were still at the department.
Oh yeah, that was scary, dude. That was a scary time. Being at the department and then trying to
Trying to do
dodge
the podcast.
landmines, dude. Especially in the world we live in, you can't say anything without,
Right.
without getting absolutely destroyed.
Well, the police do not have the same First Amendment rights as other people.
And that's probably rightly so. Maybe. I think we should be careful. Like current law enforcement officers should be careful what they say because you don't speak for your department. I mean, if you do speak for your department, then you're really putting yourself out there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we talk about law enforcement things and we've been doing that for a long time because you don't hear this stuff anywhere.
Right.
You won't hear this anywhere.
And the bottom line is you and I have certain convictions, we have certain beliefs, we have a faith.
We're unique.
And that comes into play in how we view our jobs within the law enforcement community and who we are as husbands, fathers, like people in the church, all that comes into play. So
community members, because we still are part of a community.
Right.
So yeah, I think we have.
So I do bristle a little bit because it seems like First Amendment rights for police officers, they're protected only or more so in one direction.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
In other words,
you're bristle about everything though, Anthony.
Well, that's
to
true.
be honest.
And I should say this, in our culture in general, First Amendment rights seem to be more
favorable in
one direction.
Yeah.
So
if you have certain beliefs, you're allowed to say those things, and you can actually say almost anything you want. If you're on the other side or you have conservative beliefs, it's much more difficult,
right,
to get through the landmines.
Right.
There's lots more landmines as having conservative values versus progressive values.
Correct.
In the culture in which we live.
Correct. And then for us, what's wild to me is like not a lot, all our values, we try to ground all our values on the Bible and what the Bible says. And those are considered extremely radical.
Right. It would be considered extreme for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is, unfortunate. Unfortunate because it's kind of been those types of beliefs, those conservative values are kind of the bedrock of our country and are eroding to the point now where they're considered radical in nature, which is partly why we're doing this podcast.
What episode are we on?
This is Low Expectations, episode number 17.
17.
Yeah, 17.
Man, it's good to see you, Anthony.
Good to see you.
Let me ask you something.
Oh, here we go.
let's say, all right, if you had like an action figure, all right, and it was made of you.
Okay.
All right. How would you deck yourself out? You know what I mean? Like what accessories would you have? What would you be wearing? Like how would you want your action figure to look? Do you want me to start?
I want it
with something that I think you should have.
Oh, with something I have?
Yeah.
No, something you have.
No.
Why are you picking? You're asking me to pick for myself, and then you're going to tell me. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I didn't know, like, because I sprung this on you. This wasn't in our show
I have
prep.
no idea.
You have no idea. I think you'd be wearing cargo shorts.
Cargo shorts?
Yeah, dude.
I've grown out of cargo shorts. I've finally grown out of them. I am not wearing cargo shorts very often.
Like in a chill, like that would be one of the outfits you would have is a cargo shorts and a t-shirt.
All right. You're already like completely missing the point.
You'd have like nice shoes.
Okay.
But what would you have like as like a big pickup truck maybe?
I literally...
Like what kind of hat would you have? Green Bay hat.
I would have hair.
What would your hair look like?
It would be thick and luscious,
yeah.
Dark.
Ooh, dark hair.
Yeah.
All right.
Because my bride always thought she would marry someone tall with dark hair.
Yeah.
You know.
But you're average height. You're not short.
No, I'm not short, but I you know, yeah.
You wish you were like a couple inches taller.
No, I don't.
Your action figure though.
Totally
would your
fine.
action figure be taller or no?
Probably like 6 foot.
Yeah.
Maybe 6 foot. Just like, you know, busting out of a t-shirt or something.
Chest hair or no chest hair visible? Like
no chest hair visible.
Okay. So you said long hair, long luscious hair.
Not long, like man bun long.
So you wouldn't have a man bun.
No.
All right.
But
how about a perm like those kids are now? Dude, kids are perming their hair.
Oh my word.
What is happening?
And they have the mullet things going on now.
Yeah.
And
the mullet, I like the mullet. Yeah, the front hair that's like
front
fluffy and permy.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I want to
coming down over your
slap
eyes.
those kids around.
Yeah.
What are their accessories?
I don't.
Probably a Green Bay like helmet or hat or something.
I think this is so dumb.
Why?
I don't know.
I'm trying to think what else would, because I'm trying to think of some of your habits. Like what would you want with your action figure? A gun? What kind of gun? Like, would you have a pistol? Would you have a long gun, like dangling? Like, how would you?
Just a pistol, I guess.
A pistol, like kind of sticking out. Like,
would handgun?
Would it be in your hand or would it be like in your outfit?
Open carry, so that I could sue officers that stop me illegally.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I love that. What else? What other accessories would you have?
I don't, Gary. You're asking me this question. I literally just woke up.
Oh.
I just woke up. You're asking me.
What do you think I would have? Because
question.
I have if I want myself to have an action figure. I really do.
You would have your shirt open with your chesties out.
Yes, for sure.
And you'd have some sort of
leather satchel.
Yes.
Or backpack.
Something leather, handmade.
Yeah.
Probably said made in the USA.
For sure.
Stamped
it's
on it.
It's gotta say that.
You'd have a lot of trinkets. See, you're like a guy that has a lot. I don't want to carry anything, and yet I find myself carrying everything. Actually, if
wife carries,
if my bride's with me, I'm like, can I put this in your purse?
Yeah, hold my sunglasses.
I want to be light. The only thing I want on me is a gun.
That's all you want.
I don't want my wallet. I don't want a badge. Nothing. I'm just like rolling with a gun.
Yeah,
and that's it. But your
action figure is kind of boring then.
Perfect.
That's how you want. Yeah.
That's what I want. Roll up on this guy and I'd be like, this guy, what's this guy going to do? And then wham, all of a sudden I'm doing something action.
You and your cargo shorts, roughing somebody up.
I don't know why you went with cargo shorts. I literally don't. I might wear cargo shorts when I don't really care anymore. If I'm going to and from work.
When I think of you in cargo shorts.
Yeah. I did wear them for a long time. Yeah. And
I think they're coming back.
Lauren was like, you have got to stop wearing cargo shorts.
You're
like stuck in the 90s.
They're very good for people that carry things. Yeah. I mean, you throw your phone in one, you throw.
Yeah. But you know
your wallet in another one, like whatever.
My go-to right now are nice shorts. The only company I found that makes them is Dockers. Shout out to Dockers.
Yeah. Support the show.
They have a side pocket for your phone. So you have your front pockets like you do, your back pockets. And then there's along the side of your leg, there's a special pocket that you can fit your phone in. It's low key. It's not printing on the front of your pocket, which I hate. I hate having a phone in my front pockets. I don't know why. I can't stand it. But you would have a lot of trinkets. You'd have like a pen, maybe a fountain pen.
Yeah.
You'd have like a tablet that you never write in. but you carry with you wherever you go.
When you say tablet, you mean a
like a leather
handmade leather,
yeah, a leather bound tablet that you open up,
like a field notes cover.
Yes,
that's what I would have.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's what you would have. And yours, no one would ever know. They'd be like, dude, this guy's, you know, he's a pushover. Look at him with all his little doodads and
doodads and things.
And then they come up and try to mug you, and then boom, action.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your pen turns
Spear
into
or something.
Yeah. Your pen turns into a knife.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
There was a time I did an interview with another guy. I think I probably told this story. If I did, it's real dumb. It involves a butter knife. So we were talking about pens, like it might stab somebody. We were interviewing this guy for a homicide, and we get through Miranda, or we go through Miranda, and the lead detective goes, "Do you understand what we're saying?" And the guy just starts grinding his teeth. I can't even do it. He's grinding his teeth, and you could like audibly hear it in the room, and it was like echoing off the walls. And he probably did this. It felt like minutes, but it was probably like 12 seconds. It felt like forever. And the other detective's like, "Hey man, do you want something to drink?" And he's like, "Yeah." I go, "I got it." So I leave the room. I'm back in like 3.5 seconds. I have a cold cup of coffee because I put hot coffee in it and then just added water. Cause I was like, I'm not giving him hot coffee, right? You don't do that. And I grab a butter knife. Cause we weren't allowed to have guns in the interview room while we're interviewing this guy. So I grab a butter knife. I put it in my pocket. And we go through the interview. Neither of us took one single note, not one note the entire time, because the guy just like stared off into space, and he had basically cut this guy's head off like previously. So he tells us that. So he tells us he did this thing with a cheese knife, the size of a cheese knife, which is a butcher's knife. But anyway, so he goes, and then he admits to killing his mother. Like years and years before, he smothered her with a pillow, which was crazy. So this guy was out of his mind. And he was a big fella. And I was like, man, if we have to fight this guy, it's going to be real bad. So we go through the interview. It's like an hour and a half long. He admits to all this stuff. We take him to the holding cell, and we put him in the holding cell. As soon as we close the door, I go, hey, look at this. I pulled the butter knife out of my pocket, and he starts laughing, right? Just like you are. He goes, "What were you going to do? What were you going to do with that thing?" I said, "Dude, if he came at us, I was going jugular, thigh. And I'm literally like motioning it, and he's just cracking up laughing about this guy. Dude, that was nuts. Anyway, yeah, a fountain pen would be a great
Can we
tool.
keep that story in?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. We'll keep it in.
Yeah. That was a long time ago. That was a good one. That was wild, dude.
That is pretty wild.
Like grinding, like his teeth were grinding. And it was one of the scariest moments of my life.
Isn't it crazy how you can, like on this job, there's certain people you come across, they're knuckleheads, they're idiots, they're criminals, but then you can like be around someone and literally be like, this person is possessed by evil.
Oh yeah. Like I could picture him, like he would have killed us if he had the chance and walked over our dead bodies as if nothing happened. Like it literally wouldn't have bothered him. What do they call that? That's like
a sociopath?
A sociopath, yeah.
Yeah. That's wild. It's wild to be
there's
talking to
evil
someone
out there.
Yeah, talking to someone that you're like, wow, this person is actually legitimately.
Yeah, I mean, most people see the stuff on TV and it's all like Hollywooded up.
Right.
But in reality, there are people out there that are like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And some of them might even look like your neighbors. You never even know. You know what I mean? You wouldn't know till it happens.
That's true.
Dude, whatever.
All right.
Man.
So we got off to a normal, ridiculous start here.
A rough start, dude. That was a rough start.
You know, I just woke up.
You got cobwebs.
Man, I got cobwebs.
You're drinking coffee.
You know, my bride says though that when I wake up, so I'm hoping this gains us listeners. She says when I wake up, I have a lower, raspier, sexier voice when I wake up.
All right.
So maybe that'll come through on this episode and gain us some listeners and some followers, some subscribers.
Yeah.
But probably not.
Yeah. Subscribe to the show.
Probably not.
Like us, give us a 5-star review.
Yeah. Hey, our last episode on Officer Marquette.
Yes.
That really resonated with people.
Good.
It was really cool to see. I was able to reach out to some of his supporters on social media. They were very appreciative of that episode. You can, if that episode resonated with you, you can support him. I included in the show, in the episode notes, for that episode a link to his website, Facebook page. I don't know if these are family members, friends that have this Support Mac website and Facebook.
Is it like
page.
a GoFundMe thing? Like you
can
legal
donate,
fees or whatever?
yeah, you can donate to legal fees and everything,
or just show your support. Like, hey, we're thinking about you. Or
yeah. So that really resonated with people, and it also put on my radar some other officers who have been charged with murder that I think we'll look at here in some future episodes, because it's really crazy. There are officers out there who are getting charged, and there's not a ton of press about some of them, or they've just been forgotten. It was an incident that happened several years ago. It was in the news. It was big news. And then the officer, gets charged, and, then it just quiet down, and you never hear updates. You never hear like what happens to these officers. Are they convicted? Are charges dropped? That sort of thing, which is, for instance, kind of in the same realm of things, like Columbus, Ohio PD. There was, back in 2020, huge, like, all kinds of stuff on social media about how they were roughing people up in the riots and protests, and excessive force this and excessive force that. And I had acquaintances and family members sharing stuff like Columbus PD, horrible, they're terrible. And now the feds did an investigation and said, no, they didn't do anything out of line. Of course, but it's like 4 years later, and it's buried in, the quagmire of our national media. No one ever knows. Everyone just believes those stories they hear initially when they come out. So, and we're all guilty of it. Like, we talk about stuff on this podcast all the time. We're like, oh, we should keep up with that. And then we just move on, and we forget about it, and we don't talk about it much anymore, or at all. So anyways, yeah, that's that. So
I like it.
Yeah. So
can you turn my ears down just a little bit? Thanks, buddy. You were crushing my ears. I mean, I like your voice, maybe not that much. I like your voice a lot, but man, it was really,
I'm sorry.
It was crushing me. Maybe just up a little bit, just a tad. I gotta be able to hear myself.
I did a centimeter on the volume.
Well,
you're asking me to do a lot over here.
Well, our tech person's not around, so I don't know who else.
Is that better?
Ask. Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
I don't really know if I did anything.
Maybe if you start,
I just put my hands over there and made it look like I did something. I didn't really do anything. So it's like,
yeah.
So this episode, we're going to talk about the Secret Service again.
Okay.
And then we're also going to break down a foot pursuit out of Chicago.
Yeah.
PD.
That's a wild one.
Yeah. So yeah, what do you want to talk about first? Let's just talk about the Secret Service agent. So
you asked me the question, didn't give me an opportunity to respond, which is pretty normal.
That is pretty normal, actually.
You run the show, dude. I'm just here for color. I'll just add color to the
color commentary to
the mix.
So there's a report that just came out. I saw it on Newsmax. I think that the news agency that broke it was Real Clear Politics or something like that. But I saw this on Newsmax, that this report of a female Secret Service agent abandoning her post recently at a Trump event to breastfeed her baby. So this is being investigated right now by the Secret Service.
Okay.
Basically, what happened is someone reported that she abandoned a post that she was supposed to be on, and she went into a secure room that was set aside for official Secret Service business and or like emergency.
Okay.
And that she was in there with unpinned people, which means people who did not have security clearances to be in this room.
Okay.
And she was feeding the baby that was feeding her baby that was maybe
hopefully her baby
brought by other family members to the event or something like that. Okay. And she had just basically was like, well, I'm just going to leave my post and go in here and do this. I read this and I was like, wow, this is a crazy report.
Wild.
Now, here's the thing. It's
an allegation at this point.
It's an allegation that was put out, to the media. They asked the Secret Service about it. The Secret Service said, we received this allegation, this complaint, and we are investigating it, and we won't say anything more about it ever.
Ever.
Like,
okay.
Just not,
of course they won't.
Just not saying anything about it, which is like the Fed way, It
is the Fed way. It's the Fed way. Unless it's something that they like or they want to manipulate the public. So
right, unless it's in a certain direction.
Sure.
Like, look at the Trump thing. This is what's amazing to me about the attempted Trump assassination. You have a 20-year-old who reports now he had multiple accounts like overseas, like he was interacting overseas. He was on gun ranges that were shared by federal agencies that some federal agents visited. And there's like nothing. It's like complete silence on this guy. Like, who was this 20-year-old?
Yeah.
Who was he? Who was he connected to?
Interesting.
And there's nothing. There's nothing. It's
the problem is if you don't say things, like if you don't release information, conspiracy theories run rampant.
Right. But
like you just saying that makes it sound like the FBI or some federal agency is involved in like either getting him to do this, or there's some dark like government entity that met with him
sure.
through the
sure.
web or at a gun range, or, you know,
right.
gives him details of what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. Like, it just makes you think that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I'm completely aware of that, but it's just, you know, there has not been much information released by the feds. In fact, it seems like what the Secret Service has mainly wanted to do is to blame the local cops.
Yeah. And just move on.
Yeah. And it seems odd to me.
Which is a good technique in this world, because curiosity will dwindle.
Right.
Except for fringe people.
Yeah.
Does that make us fringe? I don't feel like I'm fringe,
I don't think a conspiracy theorist, but I guess I have questions. You know, they're like, I have questions just like I did during COVID.
Yeah. And why can't we get answers?
Right.
To questions.
Questions
isn't a bad thing.
Why isn't there some sort of release on, you know, what's it been? 6 weeks, 7 weeks?
I guess.
Since the attempted assassination. And it's like everyone's forgot about it.
Yeah. Do you think, like, was the injury to former President Trump in his ear, is that something like he could put a gauge in? Like one of those earring gauges? Like what size gauge? I guess it's 223, right? Or 556, same thing.
Yeah.
Like, I guess you could put that size gauge in that hole in his ear. I wonder if he probably won't do that.
And then put MAGA in it. Like have MAGA written in it.
Dude, that would be awesome.
I guess.
That'd be awesome. He's probably not going to put a gauge in his ear though, I don't think.
No. But
dude,
anyways.
I listened to, do you hear Elon Musk and former President Trump had a conversation on, I think it was on X.
Yeah. I didn't listen to any of it.
It's worth listening to. I'm like halfway through it.
Okay.
It's just interesting because it's not media. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, you can actually listen to somebody talk. He gets asked questions from Elon Musk, who is either very smart, which I think he's very smart.
Right.
And also is around lots of really smart people.
Right.
Like he's employed lots of really smart people. He's put himself around lots of smart people.
Yeah.
So it's really, it's worth it.
Yeah.
I heard that the audio on the live call was terrible.
Okay.
But they've cleaned it up, I think, as best they could. And you could find it anywhere. But
okay.
It's definitely worth
yeah, I mean, Trump is making his rounds and talking to all types of people. He just did sit down on, what's that comedian's name? Theo Von.
Yeah, I listened to that. That's wild too.
And it's crazy what they're talking about. And it's just cool. You know, you don't see Kamala doing that.
Right.
Did I say her name right? I still don't know how to say her name.
Yeah.
But I know what I do know is if you say it wrong, you might be a racist.
That could be.
But I think it's Kamala. But
right.
Anyways, she's not doing these interviews.
Right.
She's not doing them. And Trump's doing them that Theo's talking about when he was addicted to coke.
Dude, it was funny. And like Trump's like asking him questions like,
yeah, like,
well, what's worse? Is alcohol worse than coke? And he's like, well, cocaine, you know, he says he's a comedian, so he's hilarious. Like, I think he's not very clean.
No, he's not.
So if, you know,
but you
have sensitive ears, don't listen to him. But like, he's super funny.
He does have some very funny things. But yeah, that was hilarious when Trump's asking him about his cocaine use, and Theo's like, "Yeah, man, I'll have you up all night like an owl."
Turn you into an owl, you made on your front porch. It's so wild. Yeah, that was pretty funny. Oh, so, all right. So back to where'd we go?
Dude, we got off on the Secret Service to the feds.
So this lady had a baby and she has to feed the baby. I don't blame her for that. You got to take care of your baby.
Right.
It's a little odd that she's on the job or that they assigned her to this position, knowing that she, like, if it's good for her baby, which I think it is, to breastfeed.
Right.
Like, why be put on that job?
Right.
So that's like a leadership problem. And it's a leadership problem not knowing that somebody left their post to go breastfeed if in case that happens.
Right. I mean, it's an allegation right now, but it
and family members bringing the baby to this thing. Like there's a lot of
weirdness, but it again goes into this whole like 30 by 30 initiative, because the Secret Service is part of this 30 by 30 initiative. Our last agency is part of this 30 by 30 initiative. And again, it's this idea that
a lot of police departments,
many police departments.
Yeah.
This initiative that the desire is to have 30% of their agency women by 2030.
Right.
It's basically like affirmative action for women. Like it's a way they're trying to get more women into law enforcement, into these agencies. And I know that when I bring this up, people automatically, this is what I hate about the polarizing culture we live in. If you bring this up and you have conversations about this, you automatically hate women, you are a misogynist, and that is not true of me. But it's like, it's stressful to even talk about it, because you feel like people are automatically taking that view of you, that you somehow think less of women.
Right. Because you don't want to be looked at like a bigot, like a guy who doesn't like women.
Right.
You don't want to be looked at like that. So then you're assuming that whoever listens to this and has their, I don't know, they get all worked up about this, that they're assuming that about you, because you can't even bring it up. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I think like it stresses me out sometimes to even talk about this stuff, because things are suggested about you or believed about you if the wrong people hear it, or they automatically assume that you are a certain thing, or you are a certain way.
But don't you think you're assuming that these people who on 30 by 30 are just going to hire women, even if they're unqualified? Like, I would imagine that anybody who signs on to this, I would hope this to be true, that people who have signed up for this 30 by 30 thing, that they're like, yep, we're going to try to do this. But they're still going to have to be qualified people that we hire. I hope that to be true.
Right.
So like, I don't want to assume that they have bad intentions of, we'll just find however many women we need to hire and we'll just hire them. Like, I don't think that's the case. I think they're trying to hire legitimate candidates who can do the job. You know what I mean? Because there's all levels of people who can do the job is basically what I'm saying. Both men and women, people of all different shades of color. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So I don't want to assume that these 30 by 30, but I don't know any, like, you know what I mean? Like, I haven't researched 30 by 30, what they actually mean.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I did a deep dive on 30 by 30, and I talked about this in one of our past episodes. I think it was season 2, episode 15. It was the same episode that I had retired Sergeant Manny Luciano on.
Okay.
So later on in that episode, after my interview with him, I talked about the 30 by 30 initiative, and I really dove into their stuff. And the goal of the initiative is just that. It's not to get qualified women into law enforcement. It's to get these agencies to be at 30% women by 2030. That's what they say. I mean, the quote from them is that the underrepresentation of women in policing undermines public safety.
All right, say that again.
The underrepresentation of women in policing undermines public safety. That's on that was on their homepage.
That's a weird quote. It's a weird statement.
Like that's what they believe, that it's all part of this reimagining policing.
Okay.
Reimagining what policing should be. And this is like the Trojan horse for all the other craziness they want to bring in, because if you dig further into their stuff, they say, though 30 by 30 focuses on increasing the representation of women, we teach participating agencies to use an intersectional lens when analyzing their culture and practices. Intersectionality, again, huge woke word, acknowledges the ways in which people's multiple identities, race and ethnicity, class, gender, sexual orientation, religion, ability, and more magnify or transform their exposure to discrimination. When agencies identify and address inherent biases in policies or practices that discriminate against diverse candidates, they help to promote the creation of a more inclusive workplace for everyone. So it sounds super nice and kind, like we want to welcome everyone. The problem is that not everyone is meant to be in law enforcement. And things like law enforcement, the military, tend to be more masculine based jobs. Like,
Sure.
We're created differently. And so to push those gender roles and to push gender roles out of the way and say, no, that is old fashioned. It's silly. It's stupid. We need more women into a masculine job that may not be qualified to do it. You create problems like this where you have a Secret Service agent who then has a baby who's breastfeeding and needs to breastfeed that baby. So then what do? Do you create special positions, special, rooms for that lady to breastfeed? And they talk about this stuff. They talk about changing the schedules of women to better help serve their families. So they're acknowledging
that they have other responsibilities.
That they have other important responsibilities, but not so important that we shouldn't put them in these positions that have historically been filled by men.
Yeah.
You got nothing.
Yeah, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
man. If we just take this one incident, if you leave your post and nobody knows about it, that's a bad thing.
Right.
Whether or not you're a woman.
Yeah.
Whether or not you're a woman.
Sure.
We're bringing this one to light because it involves a woman.
It was in the news.
And it was in the news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't abandon your post. You also can't say that just because you are a woman, you can't do this job. But we have to decide. I think that keep it simple, stupid always comes to mind when we talk about these things. Like, we're living in a culture right now that seeks to make everything so confusing, so bogged down by these progressive ideas. And it just muddies the waters of everything.
Yeah.
If you say that generally speaking, and you can't say this anymore, but if you say generally speaking, law enforcement is a masculine job.
Right. Has masculine traits.
It men who do well in it, testosterone is needed. Testosterone gives you stronger bones. It gives you better athletic ability. It produces a level of aggression. We need a level of aggression in our police officers.
Yeah.
It makes you faster. It makes you able to just compartmentalize better.
Right, because men don't think about things generally.
Right.
Men don't think about things and dwell on things.
Right.
And yeah, for sure.
And so, for all of history, men have been regarded as the ones who go out and hunt, who go out and conquer, who go out and engage in these physical endeavors. And women have generally been the ones who have been considered the managers and those in charge of the home and the family. And that has been completely abandoned and it's viewed as old-fashioned, right-wing, radical. And then what has happened is these women are then forced, this idea is forced on women that you have to be in these professions. You have to be working full time. You have to be doing these things in addition to serving your family. So instead of saying, no, serving your family and being a mom, being a wife, those are great things. Those are awesome things. Those are a God-given, amazing talents and gifts that have been given to women. It's no, you need to do that. We understand that you still need to do that, but you should also be working. And not only should you be working, but you should be working in a masculine profession.
Right. So do you think the left believes that women would be better police officers? Like, do you think that's like, as if like there's like this change that needs to be made within law enforcement that women would be better at doing?
Yes.
Versus the traditional men generally are the law enforcement officers.
That's their push.
Their push is that women are in general are going to be better cops.
Yes. And they put that men. Yes.
Really?
They put that out there all the time when they say
for
things
what reasons?
That women, well, here there are four. Well, first of all, if you go into their stuff and you look at it, it says research suggests that this and this about women in law enforcement.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
It never says proven. It never points you to any studies. It just says research suggests. And one of the things that suggests,
it's probably true, or it might be. We think this. Like, that's literally what they're saying.
Right. I mean, looking down over this, I would guess that they are true. Like one of the things that this research suggests is that women use less force and less excessive force than men. Well, I believe that because men tend to be more, they're the aggressive gender. They're the ones that generally are pushing. I mean, you don't see women getting into fights because they're like, you disrespected me, beating their chest sort of thing. That's a man thing. Like, and so you don't want your male police officers engaged in excessive force, but you do want them capable of using force. So if you say research suggests women use less force and less excessive force than men, that sounds really nice. But that could be a huge problem.
Well, using less excessive force would be a good thing.
Well, sure, yeah. Less excessive force.
And in reality, using less force is good if it's not needed. So it's kind of a rigged statement anyway. The statement's rigged.
Right.
Like
so basically
it's assuming that male cops are out there using excessive force and using more force than reasonable and necessary. That's what it's suggesting. Just logically, I think. I'm not a logic studier of the logic.
What I'm saying is just because someone uses less force, sure, I can get totally behind using less excessive force. I don't want officers to be using excessive force at all. But getting behind the idea that they use less force is not a good thing. You do not want police officers unwilling to use force.
Right. That's what I'm saying. The statement's illogical.
Right.
It just is. Like, but maybe I'm just an idiot. So I mean, I don't know. Like,
so in other words,
I agree with that. Like, that's a statement that we can all get behind, right? We would like law enforcement officers to use less force and use less excessive force. I want that. I don't really want to have to rough and tumble a guy, but like I might have to.
But what's odd, right? But what's odd about what you saying that is the fact that the focus is not on bad guys controlling themselves and acting correctly. The focus is on the police officer. And we talk about this all the time. The focus is on the police officer. The police officer should be using less force. Not criminals should not be acting the way they're acting.
Right.
But police officers need to use less force. And
right. It's not criminals should be held accountable. It's the police should be held more.
The police should use less force. Yeah. We need to reimagine policing, and women can help us reimagine policing because generally they use less force. And again, if I'm on the street, I don't want someone with me. I don't want an applicant with me who got the job because we believe they will use less force. I want someone with me who understands how to use reasonable force based on the totality of circumstances. I don't want someone with me hesitant to use force regardless of the totality of circumstances.
Right.
Like that's not helping anyone. That's not helping your citizens. That's not helping your victims of crime. That's not helping the fellow police officers. If you're creating, again, it's a
funny statement because in reality, a female officer who's smaller, right? A small female, right? Sometimes they're generally smaller. A small female can use more force on a suspect than I can use.
Correct.
If they throw a punch at her, she potentially can shoot them.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Mm-hmm.
If they're real small. And
Yeah.
that's true of a small male too. But I can't do that. I got to take a punch.
Right.
Right. I can't just shoot somebody.
Right.
There are terrible videos out there of female officers getting punched and then just pummeled. Yeah. And it is heart-wrenching. And it's funny because, maybe this is just me, but like if I watch a male officer getting beat, I don't have the same reaction. Like it still bothers me. But when I see a female officer getting beat, it is literally like heart-wrenching.
Right.
Because it's a terrible thing.
It's wild to think about that you could have a female on the job who weighs like 120 pounds. 110 pounds. Their level of force, you're absolutely right.
They can use more.
So much higher. Yeah. Based purely on their stature.
And in reality, police departments train them to use more force if it's reasonable and necessary. It goes completely against what this illogical statement is. They're literally said, like literally, if you have a female in your class that's small, the training person will literally look at them and say, you can step it up.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy. So they're going to use more force.
And that's always used. Whenever you do a use of force report, there's always discussion in that report about your size, the size of the suspect,
your physical ability, what the suspect looked like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea that using less force is somehow a good thing is not necessarily a good thing. Another claim, women are named in fewer complaints and lawsuits. Well, yes, of course, because generally women are not as aggressive in their job duties. They're generally, again, these are generalities.
Generalities. Yeah.
Did I say it right?
Yeah. General statements.
Generally men are more aggressive in going after the criminal element. Generally. Okay. So they're going to generate more complaints. Criminals hate law and order. They hate having someone willing to go after them. And so they will complain about officers who are going after them and trying to do their job. Women generally do not do that at the same rate, level, aggressiveness as male officers. So just because you're getting less complaints could actually mean that you're not doing the job as well as a male counterpart.
Yeah, you're not chasing the bad guy.
And I'll say this again.
In general.
I've worked with women who have been fully capable of passing all the physical requirements. I've worked for female supervisors who have been more than capable of doing their jobs. But I'm saying when the push is, we want to, first of all, the left can't even define what a woman is. But when your full initiative and your full focus is to make sure that we have this many women on our police department, that will never end. Because so we get 30% women on these agencies by 2030. Is that the end? 100% no. Because they're already talking about intersectionality and how race and gender and how you identify play into it. So then that's going to be like, well, how many of these women are minorities?
Right.
How many identifying trans people do you have on your department? This is only the beginning. And we as law enforcement continue to appease this ridiculousness. Have your standards. If you are a female that can meet the standards to get on the police department, and I think the standards should be the same across the board based on your age or whatever, make them the same across the board. If you want to do the job, then you have to meet the standards. Have that and get the best people possible. If you start focusing on how someone looks to get a job, you are going to run into problems. I agree. Because you're absolutely not going to be looking at all the other things. The other thing that's interesting that I see them often say is that research suggests that women,
I love that.
Women make less discretionary arrests of minorities. Okay. Research suggests women law enforcement make less discretionary arrests of minorities. Okay. So you put that up, all these police departments put it up. Oh, 30 by 30 initiative. It's so great. So they put that up on their social media. And I had a friend reach out to me and say, does this mean that all the male officers are racist on this department?
Because that's what it sounds like.
It's a valid question.
Yeah.
Basically, what you're saying is our men in our profession are not doing their job correctly. We need women to come in and do the job correctly.
Right.
And it's disgusting.
Because women let more minorities go than males. That's what it's saying.
That's what it's saying. So basically,
so they committed a crime. All right. This is literally what it means.
What it's saying. Yep.
All right. Female officer approaches a guy who committed a crime. She decides not to arrest him and just let him go. Well, you're not doing your job.
Right.
And as a community member, you're not doing your job. You've been asked to enforce the laws. And we all have discretion, but that's not a good statement.
Yeah, we have tons of discretion. But again, the desire to use less force coincides directly with making less discretionary arrests.
Yeah.
Because
let more criminals go. That's what.
Because I may have to fight with this person.
Maybe. Or it's just
part of it.
They're kind. Maybe they're more kind and they maybe they just think differently than men, which they do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like maybe they feel bad about arresting a person because they got a story. You know, I mean, there could be 1,000 things. I mean, in reality, a female has the motherly instinct. You really do. Like you have this like tender spirit in general. So like, of course, that 100% makes sense. They have a tender spirit more than men.
Yeah.
In general. I hate that we're saying that every 10 seconds in general, but you have to.
Well, you have to, because I don't think you can't make blanket statements like more women in policing will make policing better.
Right.
Like they said at the beginning, you know, you can't make a statement like that. You know, I guess, you know, this idea that, you know, we want women be treated as equal and to have these positions on jobs that are generally more masculine in nature, but yet let's figure out a way to make that work because women are different than men.
Right.
That's like the whole initiative. Like for it, they ask a question, is rotating shift work necessary? Yes.
Right.
It's a 24/7 job. So, you know, it says, are other more family-friendly policies feasible? Again, if you want to work in law enforcement and you can't do that because of how God created you, that there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I mean, I'm looking down what I'm doing. I'm looking down because I did a whole monologue on 30 by 30 and did a lot of dismantling of it in that episode that I did in season 2.
Right.
Again, I think it was episode 15. And I would encourage anyone who's more interested in learning about 30 by 30 and what it's really about to listen to that episode because it's super, super interesting.
Yeah.
So
that's wild, dude. I don't know, man.
Again, I have to quantify it. I'm not saying that women don't belong in law enforcement.
I think they're a great asset in law enforcement. And I think you agree with that.
But. Yeah. And I've seen the other thing they do is research claims that they do a better job dealing with people who have been victims of sexual crimes, sexual abuse.
Okay.
100%.
I 100% agree with
100% believe that they do a better job dealing with those cases, talking to those victims and everything. But again, that doesn't mean that we should say the percentage of a police department should be that many,
sure.
Like 30% should be in. I want the best people for the job. Don't put percentage. You would never say, I want 50% of my police department to be white males. You would never say that.
Yeah. Or I want 50% to be under the age of 30.
Correct.
You would
never say that. So why are we saying
which in reality, well, probably under 40 is probably probably 35. In reality, would probably be your best street cops.
Yeah.
Probably.
Sure. Absolutely. You know,
there'd be outliers, of course.
Right.
Just like with there's outliers.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know, man.
You would never make that statement about, any other, part of, any other part of the population. But that's what, affirmative action, this 30 by 30 initiative, it focuses on how a person looks, who they are, and says, you need to belong in this profession, instead of saying, we don't care how you look, what color you are. If you can come in here and do the job and perform the tasks and complete the tests, we want you.
Yeah,
we
if
want
you can
here.
stay at your post without breastfeeding your baby,
right,
and do your duties, you're welcome.
Yeah,
do your thing.
And there's nothing
we want
wrong
you.
with you having a baby. And there's nothing
you should
wrong.
have babies. Women have lots of babies.
It should be, but maybe then you shouldn't be on the Secret Service on a post. Maybe that's not the job for you. Okay.
Yeah. And maybe that's the boss's fault. If she's like, my baby's more important than this, which the baby is more important than that post.
Right.
That's on the supervisor.
Right.
So like, that's, I'm not going to blame her if that's what happened. If the boss is like, nope, doesn't matter. You have to be at this post. She's choosing her baby over a job.
Right.
But that again means
she has her priorities correct.
Which means the supervisor messed up by putting her in that spot, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Because you can find a different spot for her and give her a break to go breastfeed her baby. Like, I mean, that's reasonable.
Yes.
It's reasonable.
Sure. It's reasonable.
You take a lunch break, she can take a lunch break and breastfeed her baby. Like, she should be allowed to do that.
Change the rules. Change all the rules.
What do you mean? Like changing the rules and making things better, I think is a good thing.
Yes, I'm not disagreeing with that. But what I'm saying is, if you're in a profession that
requires you to be in it, that you're not able to feed your baby for 6 hours.
Right. You're required to work a 12-hour shift. Right. I'm sorry. You can't leave to go breastfeed your baby. You either have to figure out a way to have that baby fed, or maybe this isn't the job for you. And no one wants to say that. Well, that's not equality. That's
but I think we can
rights.
Be reasonable, Anthony. I mean, you can be reasonable and give her, 20 minutes to pump or whatever.
Sure.
And I think that we should make changes, and we should be able to be reasonable with people, because there should be some life work balance, which is like a big word now.
I totally get that. I totally get that.
So just because you have a baby doesn't mean you can't be, you're not saying, I don't think you're saying that.
I'm not saying that.
It comes across like that just a little bit, Anthony. You're a little spun up. Not that I'm trying to protect you because you're a grown man, but you're not saying that. Just like a guy who goes out on injury, he played softball and he slid into second base and hurt his ankle. Well, you can't do the job. You're done. You know what I mean? Like, give him a chance to get back into the mix,
But at the same time, you get to a point with certain male officers where you have a fitness for duty test.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you're like, I don't know that you can perform this anymore. So we're going to put you through fitness for duty and see if you can perform this. So if you have a woman who, gets on the job and then she's having kid after kid after kid, which is what she should be doing, at what point do you say, we can't give you any more time off? Like, we can't, like you have a job, like you have 12-hour shifts to work. Like we can't accommodate what you need for your family work balance. And no one wants to have that conversation. They're like, no, you just have to give them whatever they need. Okay, well, you're done. I mean, where does that end? Where does it end? That's all I'm saying. Like, where does it end? So yeah, anyways, that's my whole little thing on, I've been really bothered by this initiative. So I think it's, again, mission drift. So worried about who we're hiring, what they look like, how they identify. Just hire the best people for the job.
Yeah. And
do your job.
Yeah. Do your job. Go after the lawbreaker.
So these guys in Chicago did.
Yes.
So we got this foot pursuit.
How old is this?
So this happened in Chicago June 23rd of this year.
Man,
but it was
recent.
Just released to the public by COPA.
Okay. Good old COPA.
Good old COPA. Remember the Civilian or Citizen Office of Accountability, Police Accountability, or whatever it's called in Chicago. So they released this video of this foot pursuit by Chicago PD, and it's a crazy foot pursuit. Did you watch all the body cam and the in-car camera of it?
Yeah, up to the end, when he's on the ground.
Okay.
You got to break it down a little bit. So how does it
So I'm
start?
breaking it down. So basically, officers get a 2 911 calls from a victim who is crying and saying on the phone that her boyfriend, baby's daddy, whoever he is hitting her, possibly with the gun, like hitting her with a gun, or possibly just assaulting her with his fists, but that he has a gun on him
Right.
while he's doing this.
So name caller, 911, please help me.
Yeah, she's saying, she's crying. The 191 call, she sounds absolutely terrified in it.
Okay.
So police get there. They end up.
Hold on. Before we go there.
Okay.
She calls 911. If police don't go, no one goes. Right? She's getting beat up.
Yeah.
Right? So we have this system in the United States of America, which I think is pretty good. You call for help, someone's going to come.
Right.
And they're going to try to help you out.
Yeah.
Right?
So they go.
So the cops go.
And they see him walking away.
He matches the description.
They track him down.
Yeah.
They see him in a foot out or an alleyway. He ends up running.
Sees the police and runs.
That
is a clue that it's probably the right guy.
Right.
Right? Just after he assaulted a woman.
And back in, I think it's the episode I did on the 5th of July, 2022, that you and I did it. We talked about the Chicago PD and their quagmire 11-page policy on foot pursuits.
Yep. Can we pursue? Can we not? When can we? Is it safe?
So based on my understanding of the policy, they were okay pursuing this guy on foot because he had just assaulted someone and he was armed.
Right.
Or the report was that he was armed. So I think they were okay doing the pursuit.
So they're in their car.
They get up closer to him. Passenger officer bails out, starts chasing him.
So before you go there, when he's in the car, does he say, like, you can't get in front of him, don't get in front of him? Because I think that's part of the policy. Like, they couldn't like go right up to him.
Okay.
I think. Like, it's weird. I couldn't quite. He's like, no, you can't go up. Like, as if you can't go in front, you can't go in front of him, which is a pretty good technique in a foot pursuit.
Right.
To go in front of him or like.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. I thought the driver was just telling the passenger, just wait, let me get a little close. I thought he was just telling him to get a little closer. And I thought the passenger.
It was weird that he didn't get closer because why lose your mechanical advantage? I just thought that was weird. But anyway, sorry to cut you off.
Well, I don't know that you want to go past an armed subject so he's behind you. So, but regardless, at one point I thought maybe one of the officers said he's reaching or he's grabbing or something like that. The in-car camera, did you watch an in-car camera video?
No.
Okay. So the in-car camera video, as they're coming up behind him and he's running, suspect's running away, you see him take a gun out of his waistband and throw it onto the roof of a garage.
Okay.
Okay. That's in the video they didn't release to the public. If you go on COPA's website.
Of course they did.
If you go on COPA's website, they have that video of him pulling the gun out of his waistband, throwing it up onto the roof of a garage as he's running away. Passenger cop gets out, starts chasing him. Bad guy slows up, turns on the officer, and the officer, it appears, shoves him.
Yeah.
Like in the video, it appears the officer shoves him to the ground. He trips, falls. When he's shoved,
his feet get tangled, whatever.
He cracks his head.
Bad.
Like immediately
lights out.
Immediately bleeding from the ear, which is a bad sign. This suspect ends up dying, I think, a week later.
Yeah.
And the suspect ends up dying a week later.
He's sitting up and semi-conscious
at one point.
Like toward 10 minutes into them dealing with. They call ambulance right away.
Right. So this recently came to light. The only video that's shown of this incident is the brief period where the officer exits the car, suspect starts slowing down, turns towards the officer, and the officer appears to shove him. It's kind of hard if he runs into him or if it looks like he shoved him.
Right. Automatically. So, I mean, I've done some running in my life. As soon as you somewhat turn, you are slowing down.
Right.
Like you can't run the same speed sideways or backwards than you can forward.
Right.
You just can't.
So there's a couple issues with, I think what they need to start doing with these cases is release the 911 calls. And sometimes they do release the 911 calls with the actual recording of what is being reported. Because if you listen to the 911 calls, it gives you a different flavor and a different idea of what's going on. Because you watch a video, you have no context. Sure, you have an article telling you that a female called and said he assaulted her, possibly assaulted her with the gun, you know, but it's just in black and white. But to hear someone on the phone actually crying and filled with terror and asking for help gives you a different perspective. And obviously these officers don't hear that 911 call that when they respond.
Right.
But it takes it from just being a clinical, like, here's a paragraph about what happened, and then here's a video of what the officer did.
Right.
Oh my goodness, it's so violent what this officer did. It gives you perspective into what is really going on and what the police are dealing with. So, but of course they didn't release the 911 calls. They didn't release the in-car camera showing him throw the gun. And so the question is, well, if he threw the gun, why would the officer need to shove him or push him to the ground when he got up to him?
Where there's one, there might be two.
That's always been training.
Or
where
a
there's
knife,
one, there's always two. Like if you have a suspect fleeing with a gun, you can't. Like, we don't have the luxury as law enforcement to assume that there's only one gun present.
Yeah, you don't even have to wait to shoot to see a gun.
Right.
You don't.
Right.
By law, you don't have to. It's wild to me.
Yeah. So, for instance, had the suspect just been reaching in his waistband while he's running away, and the officer gives chase, an officer did have his gun out initially when he gives chase. If he's running after this guy, he has a name caller that says this guy just engaged in assault. He has a gun on him. Now he's reaching in his waistband while he's running away. That officer is legally justified in shooting that suspect in the back.
Right.
It's a legitimate, legal, reasonable use of force for an officer to do that. So, and just because he threw the gun does not mean he's any less dangerous or that he doesn't have another gun.
Right.
And so for the suspect then to say, okay, I'm slowing down, I'm going to turn around and face you. That's also a problem.
Yes.
Why is he slowing down and facing me? Why is he all of a sudden stopping? He didn't stop and lay down on the ground. He slowed and turned to face the officer. Why is he doing that? And the officer gets up there, looks like gives him a shove. He falls, he hits his head. He ends up dying. Tragic, but tragedy does not mean a bad use of force or a use of force that is outside of policy or the law. Yeah. It just means a bad thing happened because a bad person made decisions and the police had to respond to it. That's all that means.
That is what it means. Right.
So
I'm sorry we didn't have a pillow on the sidewalk, right. Like what is the officer supposed to do?
Right. It's the officer just supposed to go up and just like try to take him into custody standing. Like I mean,
there's still, it's a short foot pursuit.
Yeah, real short.
Super short. What, 20 feet maybe? Maybe.
Yeah. The suspect was not a good runner.
No. And maybe he was gassed because maybe
he had been running for a while. I don't know. But it's, the use of force was justified. But of course, now this is getting like spun up. And since COPA released this, I don't think it's getting a huge amount of, bad press. But I have seen, it out there and people saying, officer shouldn't have shoved him, this and that.
We need police reform.
Yeah, we
need more women so that way this doesn't happen. More women in law enforcement so this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, all of the females that I've worked with would shove that guy.
Yeah.
Every single one. Everyone I've worked with.
I don't think every single one I've worked with would have shoved him.
Okay, well, you worked with different women, dude.
But a lot of them would have.
Yeah.
A lot of them would have. And it would have been completely, it's a completely justified shove.
We go from, you can't tase them, right? Because that was like the initial thing when everybody got tasers. It was like, someone runs from you, tase them.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not a great idea, but like we've reformed that.
Right.
A little bit. You know what I mean? Like you can't just tase somebody. It's got to be a little safer environment, like whatever. Like
proportionality.
Whatever it is.
That's the new word in all our use of force policies. It's no longer reasonable totality of circumstances. Now there's proportionality. What crime have they committed?
Right.
Where are they on grass? Are they on macadam? Like all these checklists. Now
I still don't think that's bad though.
I don't think it's bad per se. What I think it does is it makes it very, very difficult for officers to operate in confidence within a use of force incident, because
it adds some, but we're professionals. So we should be able to change and be better. Like, here's an example, Anthony. Mm-hmm. Someone calls and said, oh, this guy, I don't know, littered.
Okay.
And you roll up, he takes off running.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We're still going to catch him and grab him, probably push him. I guess that would be the same. I don't know what I'm saying.
See that. I know what you're trying.
I would push the guy. I mean, I'd push him down too. Yeah. Hey man, you littered.
Okay. Actually, but now if you're on macadam or a sidewalk. So when you and I got hired, proportionality was not in use of force.
It wasn't even a thing.
It was not a thing.
You never thought about it. If someone ran doing a crime,
yes,
you chased them, tackled them.
Your use of force was based purely on the level of resistance you were being given.
Right.
Okay. They had totality of circumstances, but that's different than proportionality. So I get a guy, I just saw him litter. I get out of my cruiser. He runs. I run after him. His level of resistance is, flight to avoid apprehension. It's active resistance.
Right.
He is fleeing from me. My level of force is shoving him to the ground. Back in the day when we had tasers, tasing him, or I should say, we still have tasers.
When the policy
was different, where you could use a taser at verbal noncompliance.
Right.
That's why the taser was brought into the profession. The taser was brought into the profession to keep suspects and officers safer, because it basically really cut down on the level of hands-on use of force, like strikes, shoves, that sort of thing. Things that officers were getting injured in. I mean, whenever you go to like hand-to-hand combat,
right,
more people are going to get injured.
Right.
So the taser was brought in and was used at a very low level on the use of force continuum for that reason. Now the taser has been shoved all the way up to active, moving into assault of resistance.
Right.
Okay. That's where you can start using the taser generally nationwide. That's where it falls in a policy. So now you're back to having officers have to engage in more to
go hands-on versus using the tool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that was always based on level of resistance. Now you bring into these use of force policies proportionality. And what you have is you introduce officers to this idea like, okay, now not only do you have to focus on level of resistance and what level of force you can use to overcome that resistance, but now you have to go through a checklist of proportionality.
Sure.
And what that means is, well, why am I chasing the guy?
Right.
What is the crime? Is it a property crime? Is it a violent crime? Where am I chasing him? Is he running on grass? Are we on macadam?
Right.
Could he fall into a street?
Is there a school coming up?
It's all these things.
Right.
And so what it does is it makes guys hesitant to use force and less confident in the force they use, because they're constantly trying to determine, is the force I'm using proportional to the crime that was committed?
Yeah.
And we just, that's the problem with that word in use of force.
Right.
So in this case, I know that these officers, as soon as this happened, I believe the officer who appears to push him is automatically thinking about this. And the reason I know he's thinking about it is because there is a person on scene who sees this happen, tells the officer, why'd you have to push him to the ground? And the officer says he tripped. Well, maybe he tripped, but he probably tripped because you pushed him. And he sticks with that as other officers arrived. He tripped. And I'm like, bro.
Yeah.
Maybe the body cam doesn't show the whole thing. The in-car camera doesn't show the whole thing. So it's hard to tell. It looks like you shoved him. Just say you shoved him.
Yeah. Be honest.
Just be honest about what happened. But I think this officer was so terrified. He sees that, hey, this guy was really injured. He has blood coming out of his ears. He tripped. Yeah, he tripped because I shoved him. But he tripped.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. This idea that this officer now is so worried about what he did. There's a lack of confidence there. Again, I'm
And it's
projecting.
And it's self-projection or self-protection.
It's self-protection, but it's born, I think it's born out of this idea of being not confident in what you did and articulating what you did, because it was a justified use of force. You don't have to try to clean it up. You don't have to try to like flower it and make it sound different. It is what it is. You did what you did. You're justified in it. But the problem is that he may not think he's justified in it. And sadly, in Chicago, they may say he wasn't justified in doing it.
Right.
But I don't know what other options he has.
Right.
Does he stop? Does he give commands? Does he pull his gun and point his gun at the guy because the guy turned on him and he already had one gun?
Right.
Are they going to jam him up if you point a gun at him? Like if the officer points a gun at him? There's so many things going on there.
Right. Yeah. So they didn't charge him or anything yet, right?
No, it's an investigation by the Office of Accountability in Chicago. You know, they release what they want to release. You have to go on their website and look up everything else to try to find everything else. I don't know what's going to happen to this officer. It's just, it was just one of those use of forces that I saw that, again, you see it and you're like, ooh, but just because you have that reaction doesn't mean it's not a righteous use of force.
Yeah. I didn't get that reaction until you realize he died. You know what I mean? Like it's a push.
Right.
Or he stopped and I was trying to stop myself from running into him. Like I think is another thing that he said, which doesn't like, just, it looks like a push.
Yeah.
But if you're putting your arms out to stop yourself as you're running full speed and someone turns sideways or slowing down, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Fully justified, shove that guy into oblivion.
Yeah.
And what happens after that?
Pursuit that I've ever had, I've shoved or tackled. Every single one.
Every single one.
I never had a taser.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no.
It was usually, a lot of times it was shoved, they fall to the ground, and then they're wrestling with you, spray them, because that was like one of my go-tos because I liked pepper spray.
I hated that stuff.
I loved it. And then, I don't know. And then you're tussling with the guy. So like, how many times have I tackled a guy? Lots of times. You know what I mean?
The repercussions of that, the injuries sustained because of that, do not then justify or not justify the use of force.
Right.
You have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, I shoved a guy one time and he broke his nose.
You tased a guy and he lit on fire.
That was crazy.
That was wild.
Right. Yeah.
How would you know that that's going to happen? You wouldn't know.
No.
But how you lit a guy on fire? Now Anthony's done.
Well, just it hit a butane lighter. It hit a Bic lighter in his pocket and it burned off in 5 seconds and it was done. I didn't light him on fire. He wasn't burning. He wasn't burning alive.
That's true.
He was fine. He didn't have any injuries.
Yeah. You know,
what?
Nothing.
Get crazy.
I love it.
I just thought it would be a cool case to break down and talk about and
yeah. I mean, I would just he had to. You got to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for this officer is if in fact you did shove him, just say you shoved him.
Yeah.
You know,
yep.
And maybe he doesn't think he shoved him because he's like, it's all in body cam, like it's on camera. So maybe he didn't think he shoved him.
And he did trip. His feet were tangled.
Yeah, he did trip
when he shoved him.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess you can't just look at the end result and be like, well, that wasn't justified use of force.
Yeah, it wasn't proportional. He had a gun and he beat his girl.
Was it reasonable?
Right.
For an officer on the scene to shove that guy based on the totality of circumstances?
100%.
And was it proportional to the crime committed?
Yeah.
And
even that, yes.
Yeah.
Like they're all yeses.
Yeah.
It's tragic this dude died, but you had a gun, you beat your girl, you ran from the cops.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
You won't have any problems.
It'll be fine. So, anyways,
I kind of wish it was a female officer that did that. That would have been a cool, it would have brought the show completely together. That a female officer did the exact same thing.
I guess I could.
But I mean, what else would have? All right. So in the left's world, all right, how would a female officer have handled that? Because they use less force, and they use less excessive force, and they're what was it? discretionary arrests. They do that. So how would the left have want to seen that end? Let's try to play that out. So I'm a female officer. I use less force.
Time out. I have to breastfeed.
Oh, dude.
Time out, bad guy.
Time out. Hold on.
I gotta go.
I gotta abandon my car here for a second.
I mean, I do think it's interesting that most of the use of force videos that you see coming out, most of the use of force body cam, the vast majority are male officers. Again, there's more male officers in law enforcement, but the vast majority of the ones that everyone seems to have a problem with are male officers.
Yeah.
There have been some.
We should find some, like some recent ones.
With female officers involved.
Yeah. Let's do that for the next minute. We'll do some show prep.
To be honest, a lot of the ones that I've seen recently with female officers involved in force, it's been kind of an embarrassment to the point where males have needed to step in. Male officers needed to step in to deal with them. I'm thinking recently of one I saw at New York City where a female officer got clocked in the head, went down and out. Like this guy clocked her in the head and she's down and out. And a male officer came in and he took care of business. You know, so again, I think generally speaking, the job is a masculine job and masculine men are the best people to generally do the job. And if there's women out there that get into the job, and there are, and I've worked with some of them, so be it. Right. Come, go do the job. But we should not be changing the profession or making it a point of initiative to make sure that this many women are in these agencies. That has nothing to do with our mission. It has nothing to do with anything. You know, can you do the job? Can you perform the job to the same degree that a male officer can perform the job? Perfect. I have no problem with it. But if you're in there and you can't do the job, or you're scared to do the job, or you can't perform physically, then I don't want you to do the job. Like, I don't want you to be with me.
Because the reality is, like, a lot of people live in an environment where there's not a whole lot of crime. So there's not a whole lot of need for masculine men to do the job because they're not dealing with armed criminals who just beat their girl and now ran from the cops.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you're living in downtown Philly, if you're, visiting downtown Philly, you're visiting Chicago, like, I want to be protected. Right. And I want the same, I guess, if I'm in wherever, Scranton.
Right.
Although Scranton's pretty bad too. So or wherever, so I guess there's small town and maybe women officers would be better because you're not dealing with the criminal element like they are in larger urban areas. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
I guess I don't want the job to be about who is doing the job.
It shouldn't be. And it shouldn't be, right?
And it doesn't apply to anything else. Like, we don't have an initiative in nursing that 30% of our nurses need to be men.
Right.
Why is that? Why isn't that initiative?
Right.
Men, do well performing under pressure. Like, why don't we have more women or more men nurses? Like, why don't we have more men teachers?
Right.
Why isn't there an initiative to have more men in teaching?
Or EMS world.
Right.
Firefighters.
Yeah.
Like, why is everything, it is interesting. Like, policing law enforcement is the magnifying glass is always on that.
Why are we taking a generally masculine job and making an initiative to get more women into it? Like, I think that's a valid question. Like, why would we do that? Why would we force that to be an initiative? Well, they're saying
because they think that they're better at the job.
Right.
Whoever they are, the left or this initiative, the researchers, right? The researchers.
It's part of reimagining.
Who probably think it might be true.
Yeah. But. I mean, both the co-founders of the initiative, they did an article back in September 2020 for Cosmopolitan, and it was called "How Women Want to Fix the Police Problem." So they view women as the people who are going to reimagine policing.
Are they women authors? Are the authors of this initiative women?
Yeah. Maureen McGow and retired Newark, New Jersey Police Chief Yvonne Roman. The tagline for the article was police departments and how they operate revolve around systems built by men. Systems that killed George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Elijah McClain, and so many others. Systems that are broken. I mean, this is like your classic Marxist stuff. As the country grapples with how to move forward, it's time to listen to new voices. Women.
All right.
So.
They do have nice voices.
They do. But what's interesting when I have this conversation with my bride, she is like completely in step with me. She's like, I don't understand why a woman would want to even do law enforcement. Right. Like what's the drive? What's the drive there? No, that's her opinion.
She doesn't have any
she
drive to do that.
Right. She's like, I don't, she's like, generally if I have an emergency and I need help, I would prefer strong men show up to handle that. Right. Like not, women who maybe aren't as strong or as physically capable.
But if she was a criminal, she would not want that. I might be onto something.
Very astute. Yeah.
If I'm a criminal, in reality, if I'm a criminal, I would rather have a female officer chase me.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Because I'm
in general, I'm
going to be
because there are some women who I wouldn't want to catch me because they would beat me up. Like there's no doubt.
But in general, you're going to be able to outrun a female officer. You're going to be able to fight a female officer. Like you're going to be able to do things that you're not going to be able to do against a male officer in general.
Right. And if the police are to, I don't know, we're still talking about this, dude. Yeah. If police are supposed to be protecting people, like, wouldn't you want the best protectors? That's what I want.
No, we want women. We want women. And again, it just opens the door for everything else. An appeaser is one who feeds a crocodile, hoping it eats him last. And that's what we are doing. And we've been doing it for years in law enforcement. This started years ago where we started appeasing people, trying to appease people. And where has it got us? Have we gained any ground? Have we gained any good feelings and likes from these people? No, they want more and more and more. And it's completely eroded the mission of law enforcement. 30 by 30, just the beginning. Intersectionality, that's what they want to usher in. Everything is about this liberal woke agenda. How can we dismantle, change, reimagine? It's so convoluted. Keep it simple. Law enforcement, we enforce the law. We go after evildoers. We want the best people to do it. Best people to do it. We want people who are good, have good mental health, aren't confused about who they are. It doesn't matter what color they are. It doesn't matter what gender they are. Can they do the job? And when you make it about, no, we want certain types of people to do the job and not keep the mission, not keep it simple, then everything goes off the rails. So
I like it, Anthony. All right, dude, we did it.
Episode 17 in the